Welcome to the LeaderTreks Youth Ministry Trainingcast with Doug Franklin, where we help youth workers like yourself be intentional. Welcome to the LeaderTreks Youth Ministry Trainingcast. I'm Taryn.
And I'm Doug.
And we are glad to have you join us today. I don't know about you all, but today in our neck of the woods is about the most beautiful day we've ever seen in 3, 4, 5 months.
It's springtime.
Yes.
We had a big snowstorm 2 days ago, but today it's springtime. It's 70 degrees. It's kind of nice.
And it's
awesome.
It's got us thinking about summer. It's got us thinking ahead, dreaming about all of the opportunities that you as a youth worker have during the summertime.
And we're just standing here in front of the camera so we can, okay, go ahead.
We want to talk about mission trips, but we want to talk about an element or an aspect of mission trips that isn't always at the forefront of our mind, but actually serves a really important purpose, and that's helping parents connect during the mission trip. So Doug, let's give a little bit of a preface here. Why is it important that we connect parents with the process of doing a mission trip with our students?
Well, I think it's easy for us to think that the parents are the last people that we need to worry about in the mission trip experience. Mm-hmm. But we got to look at it actually from the parents' perspective. They paid for the trip. They think they're the most important person that's not on the trip. So I think we got to look at it from their perspective and realize that our parents are really into this missions trip. Mm-hmm. They think it's really important. And if we don't have a way for them to connect before, during, and after the trip, I think it's pretty easy to not meet their expectations. And when we don't meet parents' expectations, I think we all know what happens.
Right.
We end up in a meeting.
Yes.
And we don't want to be in that meeting. So I think it's really important for us to talk about how do we get parents to connect before, during, and after the mission trip so that they feel like they are experiencing it at the level that is their excitement for it. So they're excited. So they want to experience it. They want to be involved. I think a lot of youth groups will do the call home or send an email or do any of that stuff.
Yep.
That's all good. But that doesn't really allow the parents to experience the spiritual aspect of the mission trip or even to help them connect with their student when they come home as well too. So I think this is an important topic.
And Doug, I like what you say. I think it highlights the difference between communication and connection. A lot of us have parent communication down to a science. We know how to let them know the logistics of where they need to be, when we're going to arrive, what we're going to do in the case of an emergency. We've got that covered, but we haven't set them up to connect with their student, like you say, about the spiritual aspect of the mission trip.
You want to talk about partnering with parents? This is a great opportunity to partner with parents. This is a great chance for you to meet their expectations at the highest level possible.
Definitely. So let's start with before.
Okay.
How do I help parents connect before the mission trip even starts?
I think one of the greatest things parents can do with their students before a missions trip is set goals with their students. This is pretty rare and unusual, but I think oftentimes parents think, oh, my kid is going on the trip, that's enough.
That's
right?
the win.
Going is not enough. It's actually when we go that we experience the power of God. We learn dependency on Him. We learn reliance on our team. We learn new things about God's Word. We see truth in God's Word come to life as we serve Him. And so I think it's really important that parents sit down with students and actually make a set of goals. We created a tool connecting parents before, during, and after a trip. And in that tool, there's a way to actually parents can write down some of these goals. You know, the greatest parent I ever did a trip for was a dad who called me one day and he said, Doug, has my son ever told you that he wants to go into the military? And I said, yeah, your son has actually told me that. And he said, what do you think? And I said, well, I was kind of surprised. The family was a family of ophthalmologists. They owned vision centers, and everybody in the family, uncles and aunts, were all ophthalmologists. So I figured this kid was going to be an ophthalmologist.
Sure.
And no, he wanted to go into the military. And the dad was really concerned. And the dad said, listen, I want these mission trips to get my son ready for hardship, difficulty, and for understanding what does it take to lead people in difficult situations. And I thought to myself, the mission trip really wasn't like, boot camp. But at the same time, the dad had specific goals. And this is what the dad said to me. No other dad has ever said this to me. He said, listen, when the trip is over, I want to debrief it with you and see if our goals were reached. And he gave me a list of the goals that he wanted his son to encounter, and that was really helpful for me to help shape the experience for his son. But I thought that that was an amazing dad to do something like that.
Yeah.
And I think parents, if they just sat down with their child and said, listen, what do you want to make sure you experience?
Yeah.
What is it that you want to do? What is it that you want to come back with? And they write down just 2 or 3 things together. I think right there, that tells the student that this experience is important, vital, and can actually shape and mold them for the next 10 to 20 years. So I think it's really important that parents do this. And that way parents are like, I'm involved. I'm in this thing. I actually know what the goals are. I can pray about those things.
Right.
I can actually encourage, I can send words of encouragement to my son or daughter about those things.
Yep.
I think it's a big step, but I think it's a great one.
And those goals could look like any number of things. They could be relational. How do you want to grow in relationship with people on the team? They could be spiritual. How do you want to grow closer in your walk with the Lord? They could even be, leadership focused of how would you like to grow in your influence? How would you like to grow as a leader during your week?
What would you like to own on the trip? What's something that you feel like you could own? Maybe it's encouraging the team. Maybe it's serving the team. There's so many different things that it could be. And it can be pretty simple for parents as well, too.
So before, parents, we help them connect by helping them set goals for their students. How about during the trip? How can we help parents connect during the trip itself?
It's all about prayer. It's about praying for their students. They should pray for safety. They really should. They should pray for good relationships among the team, and they should pray for impact. And I think this puts them there. And this is where team communication back home can be so important. And if you lay this out for parents to pray for these things, then you can report back on these things.
Yeah.
You can let them know how it's going in the safety issue. You can let them know how the team is getting along. And you can let them know what kind of impact the team is having. And you can also say what to continue to pray for as the trip goes on. So I think it's all about prayer, but it's also all about communication on our part a little bit. If we got good communication, that prayer is enhanced, it's enriched, it becomes powerful. I remember I was a new youth pastor and I was running a missions trip, and we had just come home from Arizona. And a dad pulled me aside and he said, Doug, this was really challenging for me. And I was like, in what way? I just slept on the floor for 10 days, in the Navajo Nation. How was this challenging for you? And he said, Doug, I had never prayed for my son before. This is the first time I ever felt like I was so out of control. I didn't have control over the situation that it led me to pray for my kid, and I've never done that before, and I want to continue to do that. So you never know what this kind of prayer time for parents would look like. Couples might do it together even. And this might be some of the first time parents actually pray for their kids, so it could be pretty powerful.
And we've even heard the stories of parents getting together during a trip and praying collectively for their students. And it's exciting to hear when parents connect with one another, because a lot of times it seems like parents are really isolated, not quite sure if anybody's going through what they're going through in raising a teenager. Sometimes that mission trip provides that opportunity to bring everybody together.
That can actually be spectacular for parents, so that's a great one.
All right, before is all about goals.
Yep.
During is all about prayer. What about after the trip? How do we help parents connect?
This is where most parents feel the most pressure and make the most mistakes. So the plane arrives and you're at the airport, or the bus pulls into the church parking lot, or the vans come back home, and the parents see their kids who have had this amazing experience with you, the youth worker, and they're all hugging each other and sort of high on Mountain Dew, and it's a crazy situation. And they're all there, and the parents are like, I want to connect over this. So the parents do the thing that I remember my mom did. Like, what did you eat? What was the temperature? I had just been on my first ever missions trip, and it was so amazing. And my mom asked me these stupid questions. And I thought, Mom, you don't get it. I remember once my mom said, you see the price of gas? It went really up. I'm like, Mom, this doesn't matter to me. I just had this amazing experience, serving God and connecting with God. So parents, I like a 3-step process for parents to think about. Parents should start the first night with, hey, tell me what you did. What did you eat? Where did you go? What happened? Just real basic stuff. Let the students just spew and spew and spew. 2 to 3 days later, ask the students, what did you experience? What was something new that you experienced that you've never experienced before? This is where the students will begin to start to process what took place, and it'll get beyond, we saw monkeys, or I met this guy, or it starts to actually get to the process that the student was going through on the trip, the process of learning. And that's actually the last question. I tell parents this all the time. Don't ask this question till a week after the missions trip. Ask this question: what did you learn? Because this is the heart of the matter, is what did you learn?
It is.
In fact, on LeaderTreks trips, we talk to students all the time about processing and thinking through what you learned, so that when you get home, you can share in depth about what your experience was all about. So first night, how did it go? What happened? Just let them go, let them talk, let them get it all out. 2 or 3 days later, what did you experience? What were some of the things that you did that were the most meaningful? And then a week later, tell me, what did you learn? Sit down one-on-one, get away from distractions. Don't do it while the TV's on, or while they're doing something else, or while you're just on a short car ride. Sit down and say, listen, this experience was important. We made some goals. I prayed for you the whole time. Now I really want to know, what did you learn? What really happened? And I think when parents do it this way, it's awesome. But most parents are just going to see their kid and they're going to be like, tell me what you eat. Tell me what, and they're going to hear all this trivial stuff and they're going to think, this was a terrible mission trip.
Right. They're going to miss it.
My kid didn't learn anything. And you know what the kid's going to do? The kid's going to walk out of there and go, you know what? My parents don't get me. They don't understand. And I think we want to help parents connect so that they share this experience with their students, so they can challenge their student to continue to grow even down the road. Listen, we don't want to go on a service trip to check off service. We want our students to live a lifestyle of servanthood. And I think when we think about it that way, parents connecting before, during, and after is key to seeing that happen. We could run a great trip. It could be the best missions trip we've ever ran. But if parents don't really connect with their students, the learning won't go deep.
Right.
And I think this, when we talk about partnering with parents, man, we could really take a big jump forward in partnering with parents on something like this.
It sounds like this after piece is all about uninterrupted time, of uninterrupted time for those conversations, for those questions to be asked, and for a student to actually have help processing what they've learned. Again, we said that before the trip is all about setting goals. We said that during the trip, we want parents to pray, and after the trip, we want to help them ask questions and debrief that experience in a couple of different phases.
We got this tool for you. It's free. Grab it. Use it. I think your parents will really love it. And I think it's a way for you to say to them, I see you as really important people on this trip, even though you're not going to be there. And I think that goes a long ways to saying to parents, I get you. I hear where you're coming from. And I'm concerned about your experience as well, too. And I think that's really important.
We hope this has been a helpful training cast for you, and we'll see you next time on the LeaderTreks Youth Ministry Training Cast.
Bye-bye.